Wherever. It's that clock keeps throwing me off. Thank you. All right. Good morning. It is Friday, January 17th. We're on like episode 5 right now of Government Operations and Military Affairs. Welcome, everyone. We're continuing this morning with just sort of hi, how you doings and introductions with folks with various jurisdictions to our committee. And so we're going to open things up right now with Shelley Martin from the Vermont Retired State Employees Association. Please come on in.
Thank you for having us.
Nice to meet you. And since we're a new committee, we're not going to do this deeper into the session, but I do want to run around and just do a quick introduction for everyone. So Representative Matt Byron, Addison Free, Chair of the committee. I represent Virginia's Ferrisburg, Canton, Waltham, Addison, and about a third of New Haven.
Representative Lisa Hango from Franklin 5, which is Richford, Berkshire, and Highgate on the northwestern border with Canada.
Representative Sandy Pincinel from Dorset. I represent Danby, Mount Tabor, Dorset, Land Grove, and Peru.
Michael Morgan, Grand Isle Chittenden is the name of my district, represent all of Grand Isle County, which includes Albert, North Hero, Ilamont, Grand Isle, South Hero, and the western corner of Milton where I live, and I'm just a regular guy in the committee.
Good to know.
That's what. Bob Hooper. You know me.
I know you.
B.L. Coffin I represent Windsor 2, which is Cavendish, Weathersfield, and Baltimore.
Mary Catherine Stone, Burlington.
Jay Hooper, Brookfield, Braintree, Randolph, Granville, and Foxbury.
Hi, I'm Shay Waters Evans from Charlotte and Heidelberg.
And I'm Shelley Martin, and I live in the Northeast Kingdom in Westfield, just to let you know where I'm from. And I'd like to introduce my vice president, Jerry Schwartz, over here, and my secretary, Beth Hansman, and the lobbyists that represent us here. Bridget is here, Bridget Morris, Jolie Frechette, and Jackie Fraser. She's new to the group, and we welcome her.
Thank you for introducing the people around the room. It's very helpful.
Well, I want you to know who we are. You may be having to talk to us now and then, but you will be talking to Jolie and Jackie.
And thank you so much for wearing name tags.
Oh,
That was you mind closing
The door, you
please?
get a hallway.
Thank
It gets cold and loud. Yeah, thank you.
We represent anyone who has worked for the state and retired and gets either a pension or health insurance. We have also opened our doors to beneficiaries. Last year we were over 2,300 members, dues paying members. We usually have over 8,000 retired state employees and their beneficiaries. So we're slowly changing. Our dues was due October 1st, and between then and now we already have close to 100 new members. So we're always growing. We monitor our lobbyists for they monitor the bills that come through that might affect retirees' benefits, and also anything that might affect seniors. If anything comes up, they let us know. They give us a weekly report, and we do events to make sure that retirees try to get out of their homes and stay healthy. And we have been working really hard to grow our membership to try to include everyone. We send out a quarterly letter to let them know what's going on. And we are always open. Each newsletter has my phone number, so I'm very available, and we're very transparent. And if there's any issues that they see that they want taken up, we let our lobbyists know. And our board is very small. We have approximately 10 people. And I say approximately because some of our positions are not filled. And we work one-on-one with retirees. We're not afraid for them to call us at any time. Even though we have quite a few, sometimes I get overwhelmed with phone calls and I can't call right back. But we do get back in touch with them and work with them on a regular basis to make sure their needs are taken care of. We are the most vulnerable group in the state. And we have between 80 and 90% of our retirees are still here. So we haven't worked here, retired here, and left. We spent our lives working with Vermonters and serving the state of Vermont. And we haven't deserted it and left like some other places have. So we work really hard to accommodate them. One of the things that we are finding is happening, though, is they are on a fixed income right now. And a lot of them have called me concerned because they're raising their grandchildren. Many of them have defunct families now, and so they've got their grandchildren. And so it's a population that is struggling not just with themselves, but trying to keep their family together and healthy. So that's a new problem that we're facing as well. And all we ask is that you just keep an eye on things that are happening in the legislature. We're happy with our insurance. We appreciate everything that you did for us a couple of years ago when the state tried to change our insurance. We love our insurance. We consider it the Cadillac insurance of all insurances, and we don't want it to go away. And I do have many people still worried. They would rather die than put their families through any financial hardships if their claims are not met. So we have been working with them as well. Is there anything you want to ask me?
Representative Morgan?
Just a quick question for you, Shelley. Could you tell me again the number of members you have? What was it again?
It was 2,300
23
at the end of
members.
last year, and
It grew
it's
by
all
100.
volunteer, and I'm the one that does the data entry, and I have a tray of envelopes. to
Any ideas how many living state retirees there are total?
Living,
Gotta be way more than that, of course, I would think, but
I've never really looked, I could check with.
just curious, it was just curiosity. It's not, no, we don't.
My membership chair is right now in the card room,
Mhm.
and if you would like to know that, just.
I can ask that way, yeah.
And
Just curious.
Vern Mackey is the one that is my membership chair, and he keeps track of all the members.
Vern.
Vern,
Okay,
and he would be glad to
yeah.
let you know.
Maybe can't sell that. Just curious. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, our biggest problem right now is the mail. They don't seem to keep it up to date, and so I suddenly went in and found a tray in the back
Oh.
of people I hadn't entered. I thought it was all caught up as of Monday and found out it wasn't.
Earlier you said two different numbers, 2,300 and 8,600. Could you repeat what those
The
numbers?
2,300 were the dues paying members, approximately, it's a little more than 2,300. And when we send out a newsletter, once a year, we send it to all retirees and their beneficiaries, and we pay the postage, and it was over 8,000.
Oh, so that might be the range of your number of retired.
Yes.
Yeah, that's.
And I know that we can get a list of all the names, because that's not confidential to actually add up how many, but
No.
that's what we
Right.
understand.
Ballpark to go by. Will that help you?
And it's not
Yeah, it's
just,
about a quarter, they got about a quarter of them are dues paying members of their
yeah,
retirees.
it's not just retirees, it's their beneficiaries too.
Oh, that's right. You said beneficiaries as well.
So it's not just.
So it's lower, the
It might
number's
be
lower.
7,000, I don't know what it
It's
is.
not critical. It was just a curiosity thing. Thank you, man.
And we do have members that belong to the other unions. We actually have, since I'm the one that does the data entry, I know what's happening. We have retirees that are part of our organization that are state troopers who belong to the Troopers Union. We have state employees who belong to the BSEA, who are also members of our organization. And we also have NEA members who are also part of our organization. And I don't know anything about beneficiaries, so I don't know where they worked or what they did. And we have one person on our board who was a state representative who signed. So we do have a variety of people in our organization, including past governors and a various amount of people. We're kind of like AARP. We have our dues paying members, but we represent everybody.
Anyone else? Does your organization, are there any like policy considerations that your organization has for us to know about that might be coming in, like above and beyond the hi, how you doing?
Not at this point. Everything's just starting. We're
That's
just
a
running
first.
the new bills.
Not for you, I just in general, like that wasn't your organization.
So we're very thankful for the hearing aid. That came
Okay.
up several years ago, and we wrote a letter to the state. And it took a couple of years after the letter for everybody to consider the hearing aid. So that was really appreciated by many. We have 2 people on our board who wear hearing aids. So that was really nice. And other than that, I know people are anxious and wanting to know if their social security will not be taxed.
Yes.
And we have many veterans, we have veterans on our board who would like their pensions not taxed. So I know.
I think you actually find both of those policies within this committee to be broadly
Those are-
favored.
Yes, those are very, very
That is
interesting to them, and they're, one of the things that I've heard is, the governor talks about giving people money to come to the state. And here we are, we put in our time, we've served the state, and we just want to keep what we have and be taken care of. If those promises are not met for when they went to work and then they worked for their retirement benefits, if those promises are not kept, why would anybody come to the state, get paid money, stay here for a few years and stay till retirement? So those promises are very, very important to our retirees.
understood.
And any other benefits, I can't think of anything right now except for those 2 taxable items.
No, and like I said, I think I don't want to speak for everybody here, but I think broadly throughout this committee that both those pieces have support for the conversation here, but those bills live in another room, unfortunately. So we just do the policy here. We don't actually do the structure and development at that granular of a level. It's just not our jurisdiction. Even though we touch it with the military affairs, also dealing with pensions and retirees and such. But I don't think I have anything else for you.
We really appreciate all your support and everything that you do for the state of Vermont as well. And we feel like we're all part of the same family.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. Do you have anything? No? Cool. Yeah. All right, so that got us. Let's see. I know Emma is not. Bingo, actually Emma's here. Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Could you email Autumn, the League of Cities and Towns folks, Samantha and Josh, and see if they want to come down a little early? We're moving a little out of schedule, and I know there's a bunch of things we could get into with them to fill time. Cool.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for having me in this morning. Really excited to talk about Common Good Vermont's work and Vermont's nonprofit sector. For the record, my name is Emma Paradise. I'm the manager of policy and strategic initiatives at Common Good Vermont. And I do have a slideshow today.
You should be able to share.
Okay, I think maybe just.
Go for it.
So to start, for those of you that aren't familiar with Common Good, we are a statewide program of United Way of Northwest Vermont, and we're dedicated to advocating for and strengthening Vermont's nonprofit sector. And our work falls into 3 different categories: education, advocacy, and convening and connection. Education and resources for nonprofit professionals is really at the core of what we do. We serve as the go-to resource for professional development, best practices, and sector news and information. And this includes 2 certificate programs. We have one in nonprofit management and one in fundraising and development. And these provide leaders with the skills they need to effectively manage and resource their organizations, advance their careers, and connect with their peers. We also offer a lot of one-off programs and webinars. We recently had one on nonprofit audits, another one on equitable hiring. So really a range of topics that are critical to nonprofit management. And this type of programming not only supports the organizations that participate in it, but it also is how we fund our organization. We are a fee-for-service organization, and we receive very limited private funding and no public funding, even though we serve a pretty similar role to the SBA, to the nonprofit sector. The second area of our work is advocacy, which is why I'm here today. And more than 6,400 Vermont nonprofits provide services, good jobs, and civic engagement opportunities in our communities. And they employ 1 in 5 Vermont workers, which is up from 1 in 7 a few years ago. So we're growing. It's also the second largest industry after state government. While the nonprofit sector is quite diverse, Common Good focuses on issues that affect all nonprofits with special attention to operations, equity, development, and employment. And we use this lens to consider and weigh in on issues impacting our state and nonprofits, including housing, healthcare, disaster response, and serving as a partner and voice for the sector. And I'll share more about our current priorities shortly, but what I think is important to take away here is that nonprofits really have a huge impact on our community well-being, but also on the overall health of our economy. Yeah.
I missed none. How many nonprofits did you say there were?
There are 6,400
6,400 in education?
in Vermont,
Oh, in total,
In-
okay.
all mission areas, all sizes, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have some charts that'll break that down a little
Alright.
bit for you in a minute. So also under this bucket is Common Good serves as, we fill a data gap for the state of Vermont, for nonprofit sector data. We host a data site, data.commongoodvt.org, that has a nonprofit database and visualizations that I'll show you in a minute that break down data by county, sector, and revenue. We also conducted a biennial survey on nonprofit wages and benefits. We do this in partnership with Maine and New Hampshire nonprofit associations. And the report tells us a really important and deeply informative story about the health and viability of our sector. And it also serves as a benchmark for nonprofits when they're setting their salaries and benefits that help them recruit and retain staff, as well as see what's appropriate for their budgets. And then the final bucket of our work is convening or connection. And this is how we describe our work that supports peer learning, partnership, and unity within the sector. This is an area of growth for us in the past year. This fall, we went on a nonprofit listening tour. We went to Brattleboro and Rutland, St. Johnsbury, and Johnson. And on that tour, we heard housing and healthcare costs, community safety, and funding levels and practices, both for private and state and federal funding, as some of the key challenges that nonprofits are facing right now. In October, we hosted the first Vermont Nonprofit Summit in Montpelier that brought together more than 200 members of Vermont's nonprofit community. And we sold out more than a month in advance, so we'll be growing that event in 2025. And we welcome legislators and members of the administration to join us as well. In January, we launched a membership program, which is designed to enhance peer-to-peer connection and also provide benefits that support the capacity of member organizations. We're less than a month in, but we're already 72 strong and growing. And then finally, another example of this work is the nonprofit community safety convening we held earlier this week. We had 75 nonprofit leaders come together online to participate in great breakout discussions around community safety, the needs of the sector, and how nonprofits are responding to that. And these included nonprofits from all parts of the state and all different mission areas. So I also wanted to share a bit about Vermont's nonprofit sector and nonprofits. As I mentioned, there's more than 6,400 nonprofits in the state of Vermont. And this number includes all 501c organizations. And there's almost 30 different types of nonprofits. But when we're talking about them most frequently, we're talking about 501c3s, which are charitable nonprofits and public charities. And these organizations must meet the exact exempt purposes of section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code. So these public charities address basic human needs such as food, shelter, childcare, health services, and education. They also provide vibrancy to our villages and towns and cities through investment in the arts, historic preservation, conservation, and economic development. These organizations also must be nonpartisan, so they are dedicated to serving the common good. And more likely than not, you or a family member have benefited from a nonprofit, and this slide just has some examples of ways that you may have interacted with them. As I mentioned, we host a data site, and so this slide breaks down Vermont's nonprofit sector by type of nonprofit. So 6,400 includes all Vermont nonprofits, and then 501c3s, there's around 5,000, and then public charities make up about 4,500 of those. You can also see nonprofits broken down by revenue. You can see a lot of them are really small, so under 50,000 or not any revenue at all. And then this is how nonprofits are dispersed by county, so you can see how many are serving in your area. You can see Chittenden County has the highest concentration, followed by Washington, so really those more densely populated areas. And so I think it's important to understand that nonprofit is a tax status, not a business model. This slide shows the breakdown of nonprofit revenue nationally, on average. But depending on the size or mission area of a nonprofit, their revenue streams and operations may look very different. So most organizations in Vermont are very small, often volunteer run. 59%, as you saw, had 0 or less than 50,000 in revenue. About 25% of organizations have 50 to 500,000 in revenue, and they have very small staffs. Most of their funds come from private donations or small grants, maybe some fee-for-service activities. And then the remaining 13% of Vermont nonprofits have budgets over 500,000, with just 3% exceeding 5 million. And so these are the organizations that are more likely to have government grants and contracts for large-scale programs, often along with large philanthropic donations, fee-for-service revenue, or plan giving. So these are your human service organizations, education, and healthcare-related organizations, generally speaking. Nonprofits are also held accountable with higher standards for those with more resources. In addition to disclosing financial information through their 990 tax forms, which is largely publicly available, nonprofits are subject to audits in various cases. Most commonly, a single audit for those receiving more than $1 million in federal grants. Nonprofits receiving state funds are also closely monitored, including through desk reviews, documentation, and on-site visits to ensure that grants are being spent for the intended purposes, that the terms and conditions are being met, and that state and federal regulations are being followed. Furthermore, all organizations are governed by a board of directors that have fiduciary duties, including the duty of care. So making sure that the organization is managed with the care an ordinary person would use. The duty of loyalty, which is to act in the best interest of the organization rather than themselves. And the duty of obedience, to ensure the organization follows all applicable laws, reporting requirements, and follows the organization's articles and bylaws. And so these safeguards all promote transparency and checks and balances, and they not only support nonprofit operations, but also that of their partners, donors, clients, and staff, so that they have the information they need to make informed decisions. And finally, I want to emphasize the value of nonprofits as economic engines. The nonprofit sector, as I said, is the second largest industry after state government, employing 1 in 5 Vermont workers, and they pay over $3 billion in wages that support our tax base and are reinvested in local economies. A sector this large also purchases goods and services that generate economic activity, and they provide services and opportunities that bring people to our communities to live, work, and play, which has a ripple effect on other businesses. And finally, nonprofit programs support workforce participation, including through job training and placement services, childcare, and other supports. So, given the vital role that nonprofits play in our communities, it's really critical that we invest in and support their success and that of nonprofit workers. This year, grant and contract reform, workforce support, and community safety have been identified as critical needs for the sector. So our first priority, improving Vermont's public nonprofit partnerships through state grant and contract reform. This continues to be our top priority for the session, building on progress we made last year. And we know that members returning to the committee are probably familiar with this issue, and we deeply appreciate your unanimous support of H-140 last year. And we also want to thank Representative Nugent for carrying the torch forward and reintroducing legislation this year as well. And she can certainly answer more questions.
Say thank you in her absence. She's unfortunately not here this week or the end of this week, but yes, no, she is certainly going to be your point person.
Definitely. And so just for those new to the committee and as a refresher for those returning, so we are seeking to address ongoing grant and contracting challenges to make state grants more viable, predictable, and efficient. In many cases, state funding is not kept up with rising costs. More and more grant agreements require nonprofits to cover costs of the rent. Oftentimes payments are late, sometimes requiring nonprofits to take out interest-bearing loans to cover those costs. And furthermore, complicated and restrictive reporting requirements take valuable capacity away from mission work. To ensure taxpayers receive the full value for the programs they fund, organizations can recruit and retain skilled employees to deliver vital services, and that community needs are met now and in the future. We're proposing a working group to evaluate current systems and processes, as well as make recommendations for improvements. And this would include nonprofit stakeholders, legislators, and members of the administration to work collaboratively, as we know, but it's impacting not just us, but also the state as well. And then finally, recognizing that these challenges won't be solved immediately and that the existing capacity constraints state and nonprofits are experiencing. Common Good's proposing a technical assistance program that would fill a gap in grant and contract support for the sector and create efficiencies for both nonprofits and the state. As I've mentioned, we have a long track record of providing nonprofits with critical resources tailored to their unique needs. And we're well positioned to provide training and technical assistance in areas such as applying for state grants, grant management and reporting, financial management, and invoicing and disbursement management. And we know that resources are limited, but we see this partnership as a way to increase the impact of public investment in the short and long term, and would greatly appreciate the committee's consideration of this request. I'm almost to the end. I won't spend too much time on the next couple of slides since they fall a little bit outside your purview, but I think they provide some context for the grant issue and just the nonprofit sector in general. So another priority we're looking at is workforce supports. We know housing and healthcare are not unique pressures to nonprofit sector, but I've included some insights from our wages and benefits report that underscore the extent of their impact on nonprofits. With rising costs, nonprofits have always operated with big budgets, but organizations are not able to recruit and retain employees if they can't compete with other industries. And this is particularly true for direct care workers who are largely funded through grants and contracts that have not been keeping pace with inflation. And lastly, an issue top of mind for communities and sectors across the state is the issue of community safety. I mentioned we held the community safety convening earlier this week, and these are just some of the insights we gleaned from those conversations. As both employers and service providers, nonprofits are really on the front line of this work, and they need support and resources to make sure they're able to protect the safety of their staff and guests and clients. And they're also ready to work collaboratively towards solutions addressing these challenges that center equity and compassion as well as accountability. So that's what I wanted to share with you all today. Really appreciate you having me in and listening. And I look forward to working with you on improving grant and contract reform, and I'm happy to share any other information and answer any questions.
Okay. Questions from the table? No, and like I said, unfortunately, Representative Nugent isn't here. She is the one who has the deeper working knowledge and life experience, professional experience with it. So We hopefully can pick up on the work that we started last year and keep the ball rolling on that, because I understand sort of like the operational, functional, administrative, and quite frankly, financial pressures of how the grants are put out, are they paid out, timelines on payout. I know we're going back into that bucket of detail again. And I very much welcome continuing that work, because it's, we as a government lean on organizations like these, like you're representing, very heavily to help with the work that we put out with our directives and our statutes. So we have to make sure that we're being fair to you as well in the structure of that agreement that we have. So, with that, I guess we have VLCT next, if there's nothing else, right? I mean, I know, thank you so much for the intro. That was the perfect level of detail to get everybody immersed for the open. So thank you.
Great. Thank you.
And I guess we have VLCT next. We did fire out an email. They're going to try and get down here 15 minutes early. They're with our colleagues up in House General, our old alma mater. And so with that, what I'll do is